ジョージ兄さんは昔からそういう時には助け舟を出してくれるんだよ。話題をさらりと変えてくれるというかさ。
Shannon and Jessica were in the rose garden. Jessica still hadn't returned to the parlor after getting into a fight with her mother and was nonchalantly killing time here.
思い返せば、こういう助けられ方をしたのは今回が初めてじゃない気がします。
Damn right. Whenever I made a careless mistake and George was around, I'm pretty sure he'd always naturally smooth things over and restore harmony. Maybe it wasn't something as direct as picking up a fork that had been dropped, but that was his way of caring. Even servants have their pride. They want to fix their own mistakes by themselves. And if a guest lends them a hand, they'll lose face.
そういう空気を読むのが得意なんだろうぜ。まあ、ジョージ兄さんの美学なんだろうよ。あの人、妙に気ざったらしいところあるからな。
Also true.
そんなことありません。
No. I said it was true.
とっても素敵な方だと思います。
Hey, wonderful people can be show-offs at times, alright? You don't need to be a completely reserved person to be wonderful. Sometimes you flex what you got, and if what you got is the ability to dissolve harsh atmospheres, then by all means flex it. Like, that's a skill that should absolutely be flexed.
ひょっとしてシャノン、ジョージ兄さんに惚れた？
For once, Shannon had disagreed with Jessica in a slightly forceful tone, which immediately caught Jessica's attention. Batch, no way.
そういうことはないかと。
そういや、ジョージ兄さんってあまり浮いた話を聞いたことないし、あれ？確か家庭的な子がタイプだとか前に聞いたかな。
Oh?
そりゃいいぜ、シャノンぴったりじゃん。
私がですか？
Oh, really?
そんな。
Excuse me.
私にはそんな資格ありませんし。
資格はあるぜ。何年も昔から顔を合わせてて、半ば幼なじみ状態。互いに男女であることを意識しないナチュラルな関係ってのは、一度意識し始めるとトントン拍子らしいぜ。
Jessica loved teen magazines with this kind of story. She was always getting excited talking about that kind of thing with her friends. She was very quick to pick up on love stories like this. So this wasn't the first time Shannon had been exposed to this kind of story. But this certainly was the first time she started thinking of George as a member of the opposite sex. She was furniture, while George was an honored guest and a member of the Ushiromiya family. Until now, she'd assumed that even imagining any deeper relationship with him would be impermissible. So she hadn't thought of it. Since it was someone else's problem, Jessica poked fun at it, seeming to enjoy herself. It was all Shannon could do to hide her blushing cheeks. If George were to appear at a time like that, she'd have no chance of keeping her cool. They saw George come out of the entrance hall of the mansion. It looked like he'd seen them as well. He headed over, waving his hand. Shannon had to frantically try and regain her ordinary composure before George reached them. I'm sure it'll work greatly. Oh.
あとは大人たちの話になるからって追い出されてね。
そりゃ抜け出して正解だよ。じいさまの顔を拝むくらいなら、疫病神にキスした方がマシだぜ。
そんな言い方は悪いよ。ただ、おじいさまは僕らのことを疫病神だと思っているかもしれないね。何しろ、事業用にお金を借りたいという話でやってきたんだから。
That's right. This wasn't the customary annual October family conference. Ava's family had visited to apply for a business loan from the head family. Kinzo had vast resources, and he lent those out to his children. Of course, they didn't borrow money because they were living in poverty. How would they expand their businesses with the vast sums they wanted to borrow? How much interest would be attached, and how long would they have to repay it? This wasn't the sort of loan designed for the poor. It was a loan for those who were on the offensive. Ginzo strictly judged whether it would be worth lending out his fortune, and afterwards, he strictly oversaw its use. So the Rokenjima would sometimes play host to this spectacle, where relatives visited and described their businesses to Kinzo. To the parents, these meetings burdened them with the strain of having to move a vast amount of money. But to Jessica, who lived on this isolated island called Rokenjima, it was a precious opportunity to meet up with her cousins. So being able to talk with the occasional guests such as George like this, immediately cured the bad mood she'd gotten from that fight with her mother.
うちも全くケチくせえぜ。金なんて余ってるんだろうから気前よく貸してやりゃいいのにな。うちの親父もじいさまもどうせねちっこくもったいぶってんだろうぜ。
お金を貸すとき慎重になるのは当然のことだよ。もちろんうちの父さんも借り入れた分で事業を拡大し、しっかり返却できるプランを持って訪れてる。あとはプレゼンテーション次第ってところだろうね。本当は脇で見させてもらって勉強したいんだけど、母さんに追い出されちゃったんだよ。ちょっと残念かな。
親方様はクラウス様やエヴァ様のことを今でも子供の頃と全く変わらないように叱ら、そんな姿を息子のジョージ様にきっと見せたくないのでしょう。
As Shannon hung her head, she thought back on a scene familiar to those who worked at the mansion. Even Kraus, who acted haughtily towards his siblings, was still treated like a child by Kinzo. Shannon herself had often seen Kinzo slap Kraus and tell him to sit up straight. It was probably very embarrassing to be coerced like that at his age. Taking care to avoid being present at times like that was one of the important responsibilities held by the servants working here. However, the fact that Shannon had ended up witnessing such a scene meant that she'd messed up at least once in the past.
そうだろうね。それを察して姿を消すのも子供の務めかな。それにしても今年もこの庭園の花は本当に素敵だね。
George stretched as he said that, and he smoothly changed the subject away from one that was a little gloomy. This time, Shannon noticed it too. This person, George, could sensitively figure out the situation and always change the subject to something harmonious out of kindness. It was so smooth that Shannon hadn't noticed it until today. I told you, he's a smooth motherfucker. Today, Shannon really had to admire the way George did that. Of the boys close to Shannon's age that she'd known, nearly all had been classmates during her period of mandatory education. But they had all been young, and none had possessed the composure George had. Mere moments ago, he'd been just another guest. But right now, she couldn't help but think of him as something more. However, such thoughts were mere distractions from her work as a servant. Shannon tried to chase them away with a small shake of her head.
どうしたんだよ。
いえ、何でもありません。お茶のご用意をしましょうか。先ほどのアールグレイを改めてご用意します。
紅茶の名前覚えてくれたんだね。嬉しいよ。
さっきはお気遣いをありがとうございました。
Shannon was finally able to put her gratitude into words. If you wrote it out, it wouldn't be very long. But Shannon had needed a little spark of courage to say it out loud. But George played dumb.
何のことだい？お礼を言われるような覚えはないけど。
Damn right. He seemed to be playing the gentleman in his own way, letting her know he wasn't doing it out of a desire for gratitude. George's response seemed to be more or less exactly what Jessica had predicted. She couldn't help but burst out laughing.
なあ、こういうところ気ざったらしいだろ。
いえ、そんなことは。
Jessica poked fun at Shannon as the latter remained silent, red-faced. George didn't know the details, but he naturally joined in, laughing the same way. Of course he did. The three of them lazily walked around the garden, catching up on recent events. George, as the oldest cousin, talked about his life experiences. Jessica talked about recent life on Rokkenjima. And Shannon talked about her recent work. They kept going on about these trivial things. Even when Shannon heard the others talk about deeply interesting things, she never felt any particular interest in the actual content of their stories. She was nothing more than a servant, and she had no intention of delving into her master's lives. She simply wanted them to enjoy their time speaking with her, and would only pretend to listen intently and nod at the right moments. But for some reason, the things George talked about today seemed to catch her interest powerfully. Even things she'd normally ignore felt like they contained a trace of kindness behind those words. For some reason, she wanted to know more things about George, no matter how trivial. So she stared fixedly at him. Oh, great. She thought that as far as looks went, this Ushiromiya George was probably about average and didn't stick out in any particular way. But he was diligent, serious, and had a deep prudence which allowed him to understand people's hearts and show concern. But she never noticed these things before now. She may not have met him many times, but she'd known his face for many years. Even so, she hadn't noticed once until now. Shannon, embarrassed by her own obliviousness, blushed. George, perhaps thinking that Shannon would listen intently to his stories, kept talking happily and at length about things he'd done and seen. But Jessica didn't miss that slight change in Shannon, of course she didn't. So she decided she'd change the conversation to the topic she was sure Shannon was most interested in.
そういやさ、ジョージ兄さん、いい加減に彼女とかはできたわけ？
なんだい、やぶから棒に。
Normally that reaction should have been answer enough. But for some reason, as she was now, Shannon wouldn't be able to understand it unless he said it clearly.
ジョージ様はお優しいですから、さぞやその表になるだろうと。
いや、その。
Classic, I know the feeling.
よせよシャーノ、そういう追い詰め方はかえって意地悪だぜ。
私は別に意地悪のつもりは。
嬉しい勘違いをありがとう。残念だけど、特定の一人の女性とはまだご縁がないよ。見ての通り、容姿も波以下だからね。
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Alright. Below average, my guy. If we're talking about like your OG sprite, sure. But like even your PS3 sprite doesn't look that bad. Come on. You're a handsome fella. Below average. Don't give me the below average shit. Look at this handsome young man. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. Alright, this one doesn't give me the option to switch back. No, it doesn't. Yeah, I can't switch back and forth between the sprites. But still, look at him. Look at this handsome man. Look at this handsome man. That's a handsome man. No, what are you talking about below average? That's some bullshit. Talking about below average. Shit, if this man's below average, I'm fucking in the dirt, goddamn.
女の子を楽しくさせてあげられるような気の利いた話術もないし。
そんなことないと思います。それに男性の魅力は容姿では測れないところで決まるんじゃないかと思います。
Right on, right on. Hit him with the nut about the looks. Yeah, let him know. Let him know.
だからそのジョージ様はとても魅力的な男性じゃないか
I
と。
mean, he is.
その思います。
He is a very attractive man. It's not that I think you might be considered as like, nah. Straight up, he is. Shannon was being uncharacteristically verbose. She hardly ever spoke at such length. George seemed fairly pleased to hear someone applaud his charm like this. He was just a little surprised at this sudden high praise. Jessica, now sure her guess was spot on, appeared to be barely holding back laughter. Jessica, don't you fuck this up.
シャノンちゃん、僕に魅力を感じてくれるような寛大な女性に早く巡り合いたいね。
きっと巡り会えると思
I'm
い
sure he'll
ま
run
す。
into one at some point in time.
ジョージ様の本当の魅力に気
At
づい
least
ている女性は
one.
きっといえ、大勢いらっしゃると思いますよ。
She probably wanted to say that there was at least one girl very close to him. It was his cousin. This whole time. Who would have thought? Shannon avoided saying that much, drawing a final line as a servant.
そうかな。さすがに照れるね。
He had probably never been praised this heavily by a girl before. George's face turned just as bright red as Shannon's. As she watched the two of them, Jessica giggled sadistically. Jessica, you shut the fuck up and stay out of this.
ジョージ兄さんもやがては素敵なパートナーと出会うだろうけどさ、今のままじゃきっと上手にパートナーをエスコートできないと思うぜ。勤勉でいらっしゃるようだけど、そっちのお勉強はからっきしみたいですよ。
悪かったね。
相手もいないのにどうやって？恋愛映画でも見る？
Yes.
それとも秀吉
Everyone
さん
knows
に
life
習う
plays out just like a rom-com.
シェ
Yeah, you don't want to learn from Uncle Hideyoshi, alright? He picked up someone like your mother. That's the last kind of person you want to be hooking up with.
まるで鬼の首でも取ったみたいだな。こういう話では男は女の子にかなわないね。
Normally, when George and Jessica got together, their parents would say George is diligent and admirable, and Jessica is lazy and rude. So it's probably unbearable fun for Jessica to have their roles finally reversed. George realized this as well, so he resigned himself to being the one getting teased for once.
ジョージ兄さんさえいいならさ、シャノンでちょっと練習してみたら？シャノンを一日退屈させずにデートに連れてくんだよ。どうよ？
そんなお嬢様。
Okay, okay, Jessica coming in clutch. You like to see it. When she heard Jessica's audacious plan, Shannon's face turned bright red with a poof, and a donut of smoke started to rise from her head.
それはとても魅力的な提案だけど、シャノンちゃんに悪いよ。彼女の貴重な休日を奪うだけじゃない。彼女が本当に思いを寄せる人と二人きりで過ごす聖域に僕が割り込んでしまうことになる。そんな無粋なことはできないね。
思い人とかそういう人はいませんので、そういうお気遣いは、はい、無用なのです。
There's no, yes, there's no. Shannon's blood had all rushed to her head, and looked like even she didn't know what she was babbling about. Jessica, who knew how Shannon normally was, seemed to be finding this hilarious. She couldn't hide her cackling laughter anymore.
そうなのかい？シャノンちゃんみたいな可愛い子が独り身なんて信じられないね。
私
You're both going to die.
使用人ですから、男の方との縁なんてありませんし、
ってことは、シャノンも将来素敵な男性交際の練習が必要だってことじゃないのかよ。つまり二人とも互いの思惑は一致するわけだ。なるほど、こりゃいいぜ。
Damn, Jessica actually coming in clutch. Jessica irresponsibly cheered the two of them on. By now, even George was hanging his head and turning red.
ジョージ
Uh-oh.
さっきから呼んでるわよ。
That's the last person you want to see fucking in this kind of situation. Hideyoshi, he understands, alright? We saw that from the previous episode. He gets it, alright? Does he necessarily approve of the relationship? No, but he gets it, You can't fight love, alright? If it's there, it's there. You can't fight that. Ava, on the other hand. This bitch.
聞こえないの？
When Ava appeared in what was already an embarrassing situation, both of them got even more flustered. Jessica watched and laughed loudly.
母さん、ごめんよ、話が込み入っちゃっててね。
Yeah, she's like, oh, what were you talking about?
気づかなかった。
これはエヴァ様、大変失礼しました。
若い子たち同士で大層盛り上がってたみたいね。あなたたちもみんなお年頃だもの。そういう話題が尽きないのもよくわかるわ。
嫌ですね。エヴァおばさんだってまだまだお若いじゃないですか。秀吉おじさんとの馴れ初めを聞かせてくださいよ。
あら、そんなの言えるわけないわよ。
God damn it, spill the deets, Ava.
本当にみんな若いんだから。
Spill the deets.
それで何、母さん、用があって声をかけたんじゃないの？
お父さんたちの話が終わったわ。おじい様にあなたの話をするからいらっしゃい。
僕の話？何の話かな？
今みんなでしてたのと同じ話よ。ほら、例の話。
Oh.
あの話かい。別におじい様に話すようなことじゃないんじゃないかな。
何の話だよ。まさかジョージ兄さん誰かと結婚するの？
おめで
Congratulations.
とうございます。
違うよ違うよ。特定の女性はいないってさっき言ったじゃないか。
威張ることじゃないでしょ。
Of course, Ava's gonna be like, "Don't brag about being a total fucking loser, George."
まったく。
Ava smiled bitterly, looking a little exasperated.
わかった。ジョージ兄さん、あれでしょ。お見合いだ。
お見合いですか。
まあね。
Surely, as a man, George wanted to find a partner by himself and bring her home with him. So it seemed he thought it a bit pathetic to meet his partner for the first time in a marriage meeting arranged by his parents. Understandable.
お見合いというのはもっと年齢が成熟してからするものじゃないのかな。僕はまだ一人前になったって自覚すらないというのに。
もちろん即結納即結婚なんて焦る気は全然ないのよ。
Are you sure?
親睦を深めて年齢的にもう少し落ち着いてから籍を入れる形でも問題ないの。
Yeah. Judging by Ava's forceful attitude and George's non-committal one, the others could catch a glimpse of the story behind this marriage meeting. They didn't know who George was supposed to be meeting, but it was surely someone who would profit Ava's family in a business sense. The very fact that they'd be satisfied with a mere engagement to deepen the relationship between the two families, rather than an immediate marriage, made it feel almost like a political maneuver.
結婚はね、好きになってからするものじゃないの。してから慣れることよ。感情だけで結婚すると必ず後悔する。身元のしっかりした人を生涯の伴侶に選んで、それから愛情を築いていくのも決して間違ったことではないの。
Huh. There's nothing wrong with choosing a person with a secure background and then developing your affection. Ava, you really give like the worst fucking advice, don't you? You shouldn't marry based on emotions. Like, based purely on emotions. Huh? Huh? Like, obviously she's thinking with a business sense. She wants to profit and whatnot. That's where her whole mindset's at. But like, you'll always end up regretting it. I think you're gonna regret a marriage where you marry someone because you enjoy their presence and genuinely like them. You're gonna regret that a lot less than someone you marry just because they're wealthy and hope you develop affection later. And then develop your affection later. But Ava, what if you can't? What if, you know, say there's some kind of like, I don't know, redheaded bitch that's just really unlikable? I don't know. Just throwing that out there as an example. What then? I mean, clearly Hideyoshi's got some preferences, and I won't knock it, my guy. You know, to each their own. I ain't kink shaming, but yo, I really don't like Ava. I see a whole lot of love for Ava, alright, from a lot of people. I'm guessing in like the later episodes she like has some kind of redemption arc, I'm guessing, at some point. But goddamn, the more as I go on, the more I just cannot stand this woman.
エヴァおばさん、それじゃ秀吉おじさんに悪いですよ。
Yeah, Hideyoshi is a fucking king who stands up for his queen, even if his queen's a piece of shit, alright? Don't talk bad about my man Hideyoshi.
私はいつまでも一緒にいて人生を共にしていきたい。
Yeah, you better fucking mean that. Don't you ever fuck over my man Hideyoshi.
エヴァ様、素晴らしいです。本当にご立派です。
ありがとう。でもその気持ちは二人で夫婦をしていくうちに育んだものよ。そして今の私たちより未来の私たちの方がもっともっと仲良しだと信じてる。 私は夫婦はそういうものがいいと思ってるの。
だからって好きでもない相手と結婚してもいいって論法にはならないと思うけどな。
Yes, tell him, George. Tell him.
だからって好きな相手なら誰と結婚してもいいという論法にはならないわ。
It's a lot better to marry anyone as long as you like them rather than to just, marry someone if you don't like them. It's a lot better to marry anyone as long as you like them rather than to marry anyone just because they're wealthy. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm totally Team George on this one, alright?
結婚は一瞬。でもその後の夫婦生活はずっとずっと長いの。
Exactly. So that's why you make sure you like them beforehand.
だから一時の感情に任せず慎重に相手を探すべきな
Well,
の。
yeah, it's not like you like them day one and then like 2 days later you're like, let's get married. Well, of course not. Alright? That's the whole thing. See, like, she's kind of got a bit of a point that I can agree with here. Alright? I've seen people in these kind of relationships who like get married in less than a year of knowing each other, and like 9 times out of 10 I've seen those relationships crash and burn. Yes, don't jump into marriage simply because, oh, I like her now, and then 3 months down the line, oh, well, I realize that now she's not entirely the person I thought she was now that I've actually gotten to know her. But you get to know someone, then you do the marriage thing, then, it's time. It's time. Like, I know obviously none of this actually matters to her. She just wants to marry her son off so she can rake in that paper. But she does have a small point right there. I will have to, give that one to her there. All right, momentary emotions. You gotta sit and think on that one. You gotta sit and think on that one. If you don't actually get to know the person, well then you kind of setting yourself up for failure. All right, gotta sit and think on it. But also, money ain't what it's about either.
そしてそれは人生経験の未熟なあなたよりお母さんたちの方がうまくやれるとは思わない。
No, not at all. I think it's his life to lead, and he should marry who he feels is best for him. His life is not yours to live. Once again, I know none of that matters to her right now, but no, don't agree at all. I would not want my parents fucking deciding who I married. Me and my parents are very different people. Both my mother and my father. We are very different in a lot of ways. The last thing I want is them trying to set me up with someone. Like, oh, look at this person we found for you. I'd be like, oh, no. No. Oh, God, no. Whereas if I'm able to choose for myself, and actually discern whether or not I like this person, whether we actually get along or not. Yeah, no, don't leave it up to your parents. Once again, I get it. It doesn't fucking matter. She doesn't legitimately care what he thinks, alright? She doesn't care. She's not genuinely trying to convince him. She's just really saying like, hey, this is how it's gonna be, and here's my bullshit points to get you to shut up about it. No, it's not true, George. Don't give in. Stand strong. Stand up for your queen.
あなたは私の自慢の一人息子よ。どこへ出しても恥ずかしくないくらい立派に成長してくれたわ。バトラ君は席を抜け、あなたが今やお父様の血を引く唯一の男孫。あなたにふさわしい相手は慎重に選ばなくてはならない。
No. As everyone related to the Ushiromiya family knew, Ava adored George immensely. But that didn't mean she had pampered him. Clearly. She'd been strict with him and had raised him into a wonderful boy who wouldn't betray her expectations. Tell her expectation to go get fucked. That was why she treasured him so.
あなたの相手は決して母さんたちの損得で決めてなんかいないわ。
Because it kinda seems that way.
あなたにふさわしい本当に素晴らしい女性に母さんが合わせてあげる。
Yeah, based on your way of thinking, You're gonna be like, I think she is a truly wonderful woman. But guess what? If she behaves the same way you do, she is not a truly wonderful woman. There's no way I want someone like Ava fucking deciding what's truly wonderful, alright?
今はあなたの中にある青臭い若さがそれを疎むかも
Fuck
しれ
you.
ない。
Call me immature all you want. It's very unpleasant.
でもこれだけは母さんの言うことを聞きな
Dude,
さい。
I'm not gonna take your advice on anything. If you're gonna take my advice on anything, no, not one goddamn thing. Fuck you.
私があなたのためを思わなかったことが一度でもある？
Yes, right now.
それはないけど。
I mean, not that he knows of. Man hasn't had a chance to live his life and actually, look back on life and think, oh, did she ever like truly fail me in some ways? 'Cause I mean, shit. Like, I've had that experience where it's like you're in the moment and like at the time you don't think that your parents are doing anything wrong. It's like, oh, they're just parenting. But then like you get older, you look back and you're like, yeah, no, they definitely could have handled that better. I kind of got fucked in this situation.
今はそれで結構よ。さあ行きましょう。お父様を待たせてるわよ。急いで屋敷に行きなさい。
じゃあごめんね、二人と。また後で。
George bowed to the two of them, and after bowing once more to Shannon, he dashed off to the mansion.
じゃあおばさんも行くわ。楽しい話を打ち切っちゃってごめんね、ジェシカちゃん、シャノンちゃん。
いえ気にしないでください。じゃあシャノン、私たちは行こうぜ。
はい。
大丈夫よ。ジェシカちゃんだってきっとそのうち素敵な出会いがあるわよ。ジェシカちゃんにふさわしい素敵な方がね。
私と同程度ってことは成績の悪い男かな。なんだかうぜえぜ。
もちろんシャノンちゃんにもね、あなたにふさわしい素敵な男性がきっと現れるわよ。
Oh, yeah.
はい。ありがとうございます。
As Ava giggled and smiled, she approached Shannon's ear with a hand over her mouth, as though she was trying to tell her secret. Oh god. I kind of figured that, Ava had really, if not heard the whole thing, it kind of inferred everything that was going on. Yeah, I don't know.
使用人風情のあなたにぴったりの相手が
Yeah.
きっと
There it
見
is.
つかるわよ。義務教育に行かせてもらった恩も忘れて身の程を知りなさい。
そんな。
ジョージはお父様の血を引く孫の中では嫡男に当
This
たるの
fucking
よ。
cunt!
ひょっとしたら未来の後ろ宮家を背負うことになるかもしれない人。その期待に応えるためにたくさんの勉強を
I love how they made it sound like she just like, barely passed by Shannon and said and whispered to her. That's what they made it seem like, alright? They're like, and as Ava walked away, she, put her hand up and whispered into Shannon's ear. It's like, you'd think it'd be like something brief, like, just something short, like, stay the fuck away from my kid, or some shit like that. But, like, this woman's reading off, like, a whole damn paragraph, like, George, he's the eldest grandson on the register, and because of this, and this, and this, and this, this, and, like, yeah, imagine Jessica's just, like, kind of standing there, watching her, like, whisper all this into Shannon's ear, just like, Anyway, I'm still angry.
そんなジョージと無資格無教養な使用人風情が釣り合うと本気でお思い？
Those malicious words all poured into Shannon's ear without spilling a drop. To Shannon, it was like cold water was being poured in there.
私はそんなつもりは。
This was all whispered to Shannon in secret. Yeah, but did you see how many lines there were? That woman read off an entire paragraph. What do you mean that was all whispered into Shannon in secret? What do you mean secret? Jessica was right there. There's no way she didn't see Ava speak an entire paragraph into Shannon's ear, regardless of whether she heard it or not. Like, there's no way Jessica didn't see Ava just like walk up and be like, anyway, and it's like that wasn't just like a quick passing thing where you just say something quickly and quietly and then move on, and then like the person's left there like, oh god, she knew. It's like there wasn't anything secret about that at all. And with the same smile as before. Jessica, who only see Ava's expression, didn't think it was anything other than Ava telling Shannon some embarrassing story about love. What the fuck? The fuck do you mean some embarrassing story? But what? Why the fuck is that what you would think? Why do you think Ava would be digressing some kind of divulging? There's the word I'm looking for. Would be divulging some kind of story like that to Shannon? Why is that where your mind would go? I get it. Jessica's a bit of a fucking idiot, sure, but that's what you fucking thought? You didn't think it was anything more than Ava just be like, I'm sure you'll find love one day. Also, let me tell you some embarrassing little secrets. It's like, no! What? Jessica, come on! I get it, you're stupid, but you gotta be smarter than that. Come on. No wonder your grades are shit. You're a goddamn idiot. When their secret conversation ended, Ava patted Shannon's shoulders as though she was urging her on.
大丈夫。あなたにぴったりのお相手がきっと見つかるからね。じゃあね、ジェシカちゃん。また後でね。
はい、また後で。秀吉おじさんとの話、その時聞かせてくださいね。
いやよ。
Ava laughed loudly and headed back to the entrance hall. Behind Jessica, who was cheerfully waving her hand, Shannon reflected very, very deeply on those words of Ava's about knowing her place.